Hello, folks. Phil Duggan, N1EP, November 1 Echo Papa here with the Maine HamRadio Society radioactive podcast and video. Today's edition will include an interview with Jerry Burns K1GUP, who has been a longtime net manager of the Maine Seagull Net. So with that, here's the interview. Thanks for watching.
Okay, well, thank you all. Appreciate that for the frequency. Call the Seagull Net, calling the one and only Maine Seagull Net, year 82, right here on 3940. We meet 6 days a week, 4:30 this time, and we get starting next Monday back to the 5 o'clock time. And we welcome one and all to join us, traffic or not, or just to say hi and come in, comments, whatever your pleasure. Does anyone need short time?
N1EP.
AM. Don, Uncle Don, I don't want to make you sit too long. Come on in.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. K1GUP and the net N1EP. Well, it was like everywhere else, a beautiful day in northern Maine today. 50 degrees. Water was running everywhere. Snow actually settled down quite a bit today, and I don't know. Hopefully it's not to get ready for more, because we've had enough, haven't we? Not much to report on here. Just so yeah, we'll send it back to you, Jerry. Take care, all. K1GUP, N1EP.
Okay, good signal there, Don. I'm glad you got out today a little. Trust the test results are good for you. Thanks for coming in.
Okay, we're here with my guest, Jerry Burns, K1GUP of Carmel, Maine. And we're going to talk primarily about the Maine Seagull Net, which he is a net manager. But first, get a couple of questions about yourself there, Jerry. When were you first licensed?
Age 11, 1958.
19 or 1858?
We want to end this right now?
Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
I'm very sensitive. I can't take abuse.
Yeah, I know. As we know on the Seagull Net, right?
Yeah.
So now, were your parents hams?
My dad and I studied together and got our licenses. So I started studying with him when I was 10, and he became K1GUP as I was KN1 then. We were novices for a year.
GUQ, so now your son has that.
Now my son, he had his own call for a few years. Now he has my father. So my father died back in 65.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now, now you have several like kids and grandkids that are hams now, don't you?
Sure do. I haven't counted, but we've got my wife, daughter-in-law, 3 grandsons, 4 grandsons. Let's see, 4 grandsons with licenses, and another one I'm going to work on for this summer. The last one. There are 2 granddaughters, but they don't have the interest.
Yeah, that's like my granddaughter doesn't really have. She loves electronics, doing soldering and all that, but doesn't want it. Not yet, anyways.
Right.
So.
Sure.
And you're a retired school band teacher?
Yeah, primarily. I did other things too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't we get on to the Seagull Net? Do you remember? Do you have records of when it was first aired? I know we're what do you say? Year 82?
We're in the 82nd year. Yeah, 1939 is when it was founded.
Yeah. And do you know who founded it?
Oh, sure. Win Ramsdell, his name was W1 Fox Bravo Juliet, WNFBJ. I guess he owned a canning factory and fisherman. He would fish, they canned fish and so forth. Very, very well known. He was originally born in Lubec.
Oh.
He was down in the Portland area, I believe, the last those many years then.
Yeah.
Probably the best known ham in the state back then. Okay. He was also the section communications manager, is what they called them then.
Okay, for the ARRL. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And it was AM back in those days, right?
That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but when did they start? Well, first, actually, when did you first start checking into the net?
Well, probably after I upgraded from novice, I could check a logbook, probably 1960, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So you've been on the net for quite a few years, and probably wasn't that much longer later that you started net controlling too, huh?
Yeah, I'd have to check again. I don't know if I have records of that or not. Probably I don't, but I might have. I used to write down back then. We used to write down everything in our logbooks. You know, when you put out a CQ, you put it down in the logbook and all kinds of things.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
might have that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It certainly would have been early 60s. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any Seagull Net milestones that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, I became net manager in 1973. That's not a milestone, but I don't know how it ever happened to be that long. I was living in Lubec at the time, my first teaching job down there, and the job came open, and I was active anyway, so I said, well, I'll help out for a while. Here I am, 48 years later. So crazy.
And KX would say the net's been suffering through that for 48 years.
Well, sadly, for the net, he was actually a net manager back in the early 70s for a couple of years, but they kicked him out pretty quickly. He was incompetent and irritating and so forth.
Okay. All right.
So then, of course, the milestone after that was the 50th anniversary we had in 1989. Tried to really advertise that and promote it as much as we could. Back in 1989, earlier in the year, Win Ramsdell, the founder, was still alive. He's died many years ago now, and he was just wintering in Florida. So I had a schedule with him on 15 meters. You probably heard the tape I played on the net, and I recorded the cassette on him. And we talked up in the high end of 15. I asked him what he could tell me about the history and any highlights and whatever he might remember about the net, because I didn't want that to be lost with his demise, of course. So he mentioned a lot of things, the fires that swept through Maine in the 40s and things like that. And he said when he first founded the net, people were looking at him askance because all traffic was done on CW. The nets are on CW, and to have a phone net was unheard of. It could have been, Seagull Net could have been the first phone traffic net in the nation. I had no way to prove it, but
now the traffic net or phone net?
Traffic net on phone.
Okay.
So I can't prove it, but I know it was extremely early in that for phone operation.
Yeah.
Because all the trunk lines, TCC and all that for traffic coast to coast was all done on CW. He said, well, he told me, he said, why shouldn't we have phone net too? So he started it.
Yeah, and there probably weren't a whole lot of phone nets at all, whether traffic or otherwise back then, huh?
I'm not sure about that. Predates me, so I don't know for sure. But certainly not for traffic, no.
Yeah. So, any now, so you recorded that one from '89. You recorded the all that stuff, and including the 75 meter, the actual Seagull Net too.
You mean from back in?
From the 50th anniversary, yeah.
Well, you recorded that. Didn't you record that? Did you record that or not?
In '89?
Maybe you didn't.
No, I recorded. I think I might have recorded you replaying that on your thing. Yeah.
I think you recorded the AM session.
Yeah, I might have. Yeah.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
So I did not record the net itself. I don't think. I know. I didn't do that. I didn't think of it. I should have.
Yeah. Any other milestones you can think of?
Those are the main. That's the main.
When did it go to sideband?
I wish I knew. We'd have to do some investigating, checking my logs, old logs. I could probably come fairly close. I'm trying to look. I have the list of what they used to call phone activity managers, PAMs. There's never been the net manager on phone. And the RM, the route manager, was the CW net honcho, like for PTN and so forth. As I look back, my goodness, it would have been late 50s. Of course, there was a mixture first. You can't say there was one date when the net went sideband.
Yeah.
Because when I get on in 1958, I was just on CW as a novice. But even then, there were all the fights occurring between AMers and sidebanders. It had been going on for 2 or 3 or 4 years before that. The sideband operators were, of course, new kids on the block. And they started, for instance, on 75 meters, they started off way on the top end, just below 4 megs. So they wouldn't interfere with AM because the two aren't that compatible, as you know. You get a bunch of heterodines and carriers and sidebanders and lots of terrible fights between the two groups. So they started up there, but as the single sideband became much more popular, many more fellows using it, they had to move down the band. And pretty soon it got really crowded. I believe, I don't know, I haven't checked this either. In the old QSTs, it's probably there. Seagull Net was originally, I think, on 3960, I believe. But way back somewhere, probably because of sideband activity, they had to move down to 3940. So I got off track. What was I started to say something about, help me, I'm losing it here.
No, about the sideband, kind of trying to track down when it was.
Thank you. It was a gradual process. Yeah. It wasn't one night that said, okay, everybody's on sideband now. It was just all AM. Once in a while, somebody would check in on sideband. Everybody has to say, stand by, turn on, because we had separate transmitters and receivers, AM and CW. You have to go to CW position, tune him in, move your BFO enough so you can make him understood. What a nuisance. Then somebody checks on an AM, you got to go back, turn the BFO off. And, it was a little awkward, but more and more sidebanders came in. So again, I'm guessing late 50s, maybe probably early 60s is no, it wouldn't have been 50s. I remember checking in some of the guys, they were still mid control on AM in the very early 60s. So sometime early 60s, it probably finally went over with a few AM stragglers still checking. They would have been the AM stragglers checking in, not sidebanders. Yeah. That's how it worked. So,
now, and you do twice a year. You do the AM net. We go to the on your Thursday night twice a year to the AM, and I know a lot of the old timers get quite. I mean, they almost get emotional. Going back and hit time there.
I know you'd be surprised the number of newer hams that enjoy that mode as well. If you listen around the bands much, you'll hear some of these fellows because they love being able to get into the stuff and work on it and play with it and without needing magnifying glasses and that type of thing. But even the newer folks there, I say, "My, this sounds good." Even on their little dinky speaker on their rice box, sounds pretty good with a well-adjusted plate modulated transmitter. So we do it twice a year. I started that with our 50th anniversary, trying to do all we could. Back then on the 50th, again, I'm rambling as usual here, but back in '89 for the 50th, I contacted as many previous net members as I could think of around the country and tried to get some input from them, have them check in or whatever else for old time's sake and that type of thing. So a few came in on AM then. And so now it's become a tradition twice a year.
Yeah, and that's coming up next Thursday, right? Which is the 18th.
18th, that's right.
Coming up on the 18th, the AM net. So
I'll be running it this time with an old Collins station from around 1949, 50, 51, separate transmitter and receiver.
And that'll be at 5 p.m., 1700.
Correct. We go back.
Because right now we're doing it 1630, but after the time change, we're moving back to 1700.
That's right. It's been that time for a long time at 5 local. So
All right.
We had, it was pretty exciting. A lot of guys were excited. Again, I was surprised. I didn't know how it would play back in '89 on our 50th. And I said, we're going to do this session on Thursday on AM. Yeah. I didn't know how it would go,
I liked Hitch's back, a few years ago, Hitch's reaction to every time he'd always grunt.
You're ruining the old Seagull Net. You're ruining it. Just to give me a hard time.
Yeah.
So, but it turned out they had a ball. A lot of people had never heard a bunch of AM signals like that, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And it still is. They look forward to it. So
Oh yeah,
it's good.
I do too. Yeah. So I'm hoping to be here next Thursday. So yeah.
I don't know how. Go ahead.
Good. No, what were we gonna say?
I just don't know how this ended up being so long that I've been manager. I had no plan for that. I just kept on doing it. I remember a lot of the old guys that were on the net back when I was a kid, and I didn't want it to fall into disuse like some nets do, like the Barnyard net up on 3960. Everybody died, so the net stopped.
Yeah.
Check it there. So I didn't want to keep it going. And I remember what they used to do. I remember back when it was all traffic. We never did comments and informers because there was no time for it with actual traffic for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Real traffic, not the stuff you see today.
Yeah.
The Air Force Base was in Bangor, Dow Air Force Base. We had traffic there. We filed to Mars. But gradually, as traffic dwindled a little bit, you had to kill some time. You didn't want to close the net right off, and people would give up on checking in after a while if it's not there at 4:30. So we started with a few comments, understanding we'll get to 6 o'clock or so, we'll stop. But pretty soon, there's less actual traffic. It came to what it is today, and it's a gradual process. So we can be there for the full hour or so if we can. And the activity's been good. I appreciate folks supporting it.
Yeah. Lately, it's been going to an hour and a half on a lot of the nets.
I know, and I try to move right along, not say much myself as net control, which I encourage net controllers. They don't come to listen to me, they come to hear one another. So, and still it was an hour and 15 minutes Thursday night.
Yeah.
Couldn't help it, because we had 30 some, mid 35, whatever. Now back 30, 40 years ago, you'd have 40, 50, sometimes up to 60 check-ins.
Yeah. Wow. I can't imagine trying to get through 60. Definitely have to get the comments out of there.
Couldn't have too many of, we could name a couple of folks that like to make long transmissions,
Yeah.
Didn't have any of those.
Yeah. Oh my. You'd lose your net controllers if that happened, because they'd be going through, they'd miss their suppers.
Oh yeah. Many a year. I don't do it now anymore, but way back years ago, I'd eat every time I was net control, I'd eat supper right there at the rig.
Yeah.
Don't do that now, but used to.
Yeah. So now, do you have a list of net controllers over the years? Have you maintained that?
A list. I could compile one because I have my net records going back to when I took over the net.
Yeah.
The totals for all the check-ins, average traffic and all that, all the way up through from 73 probably.
Yeah. Now, is there a web page for the Maine Seagull Net? I don't.
No, there should be. There should have been years ago.
I'll make one for you if you want. And that would be nice to have like stuff like that if you eventually get the time to go through and put the history, who the net control is, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
I should have had it done years ago. I just procrastinated, but we should have it. I know we should.
Yeah. I'll do it for you. It's not that hard to put a web page together. So
I'm so lazy. I've never made one, but I could have if I'd wanted to get at it. But I was thinking I should have one. I could have an up-to-date net roster there. People could download stuff like that, net schedules, etc. Little newsy things. I know.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Now you touched on this a little bit, but the nature of traffic and check-ins through the years, it's changed quite a bit, hasn't it?
Well, as I guess I pretty much said earlier.
Yeah.
We've had peaks and valleys like any organization does. Numbers I have some of my records here, but not all of them right now. We've had, like I said back years and years ago, 40, 50, 60 check-ins, not uncommon. Back some of that time, as I recall, it wasn't getting comments in for everyone. Can you imagine, as you mentioned, getting 60 guys into the comments, you'd be there 2 hours. I mean, you couldn't do that. Right. That's when there was still traffic.
And the radiograms themselves, I mean, back then everybody had a landline. Now most people have cell phones, and a lot of times they're given wrong numbers on the thing. So you try to phone in a radiogram and it says this number's been disconnected. I mean, all these new ones, they're giving the FCC their wrong phone number or putting it wherever they're giving wherever the people generating these radiograms get the phone numbers, they're not correct, a lot of them.
That's right. Now, what we do with traffic, you know these things, but others that we listen may not here. We are the Maine section phone net. Our equivalent on CW, of course, is a pine tree net, which blabbermouth Bill Mann likes to claim predates us by 2 years, which it does, 37. And because we're a much better net. I said that. We are the Maine section phone net. So any through traffic we have, which means going out of state, is going down to goes to someone on our net. He or she will take it down to the PTN, the Pine Tree Net, and then they go to the region net, the first region net, which is on CW. And from there, it goes to the Eastern Area Net. It depends on where it's going, of course. If it's out of New England, Eastern Area, across the country to wherever its destination is, and vice versa when traffic's coming back this way. Generally, that's where it comes, even though there are other, like Dennis, WA1URS, checks out that one other net or two as well. That's an outlet or an inlet. So
yeah,
that's generally how it works.
Yeah, and as far as W1KX saying the PTN predates it by 2 years, of course you could come back with they weren't satisfied with that, and that's why they came up with the Maine Seagull Net, right? Now KX gonna be mad at me.
Might as well be you too. I don't know.
Yeah. So you've obviously been the net manager since then. You said Bill Mann was net manager for a while.
Yeah, sadly, I don't know how that happened. It was a fluke, I guess.
Yeah.
I have a listing of all. I won't go through them, of course, but the first, of course, Seagull manager was Wynn, WNFBJ, 1939 to 1952. Then after that, there's a total of 18. I'm the 18th net manager. Some were only in there for just a few months as an interim.
Yeah.
But if you count them all, according to my records here, I'm the 18th manager, again from 1973. And I knew of all those. I go back, goodness, all but well, I knew all these guys except one or two, either on the air or used to listen to them back when I was a kid. So
yeah. Now today on the Seagull Net, it's primarily male voices we hear, but there are a few YLs, young ladies, and there's been many over the years, including net controllers. Could you maybe mention a few?
I'll forget some. The one that sticks out the most is Oni Woodward down in Massachusetts. Oh goodness, but it doesn't matter. I know just as well. W1ZEN. She was net control on Wednesday nights for quite a while. Why Massachusetts? Well, they had a summer place in York Beach, and she came to Maine a lot with Woody, her husband, W1RCJ, and they were just like maniacs, even though they lived in Massachusetts. They were there all the time. I met him as a kid with my father down in Augusta, and the Hamfest there, and at somebody's house. And so Oni did a great job.
Yeah.
Didn't take any guff from anybody. She was good because she became Silent Key many years ago. We had I'd have to look them up now.
Yeah.
Shirley N1HYF.
Yeah, I remember her.
Her over in Western Maine. She loved to give me an awful hard time.
I remember that.
And Robin N1NFK down in Brunswick. She was caring for her husband who just passed away a year or two ago.
Yeah.
So she got off. She's still licensed, I guess.
Yeah.
And there was a lady down in Blue Hill. What's her name? She was net control 2 or 3 years too. I'm losing her name. I'd have to look through. I could look back through all my records and find them quite easily. I must be leaving some others out.
With Bobby,
of course, in Ellsworth. There was a blind lady, Louise Wright, W1GWF, lived in Pittsfield, and she was net control some too back 30, 40 years ago. Blind lady.
Wow.
I can't think of the others right now. But.
So now, would you please confirm that Wednesdays Seagull Net night is the best night to check in?
If you're deaf and dumb, yeah, that's probably the best night.
If you're what?
Deaf and dumb.
Oh man, I can't believe it. I don't know. Well,
it makes Thursdays look good at least. Those listening, that Wednesday is Phil's night until we fire him. So that's why he's
Yeah. Now, there's quite a few, obviously, 3940 icons that have passed away. And, you know, and do you have any, a few that you want to mention that you have some fond memories of?
Well, we think of John K1BXI, of course, and
Yeah.
he was net manager in 1959 to 61. And I get 1964 and 65, he was net manager.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was on sideband yet or not. He got on pretty early with his little Heathkit Hot Water 12 on that. Let me see. Had a lady, Mary, she lived over in Orrington, Brewer area. K1ADY, early 60s. She was net manager, so it was ladies in there. She was the only lady I can see on the list here, I guess. You're looking for just any highlights or any particular stories?
Yeah, anything that comes to mind to you that stands out?
In 64 to 67, I don't remember much about it. I don't know why. There was actually a late session of the Seagull Net. They tried it for a while, 3 years. Probably because there was quite a bit of traffic, I imagine. The fellow down in Auburn area, KZVN, was the manager of that, actually, late session. I don't remember much else about it other than it existed.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't recall any details.
A late session, like in the late evening?
Yeah, evening. I don't know.
It's been gone long. It must have been.
Well,
probably talked to a lot of Florida and.
Yeah, that's probably why it didn't last, but I just don't remember details about it now. Because that was 64, 65. Let me see. Yeah, that's when I graduated from high school, 64. So I was off to college, so I wasn't on as much then. I was on, but I just don't remember any details about it. That's all.
Yeah. Now, have you thought much about the future of the net? You know, let's say 10 years or 20 years down the road?
Yeah, I think about it. It comes to mind. I don't go into deep thoughts and concerns about it. I think once in a while, now that I'm getting along in years, who would be a good net manager to take over? It's a balancing act. You understand that?
Oh yeah.
You can get people offended right off, get them fighting, and suddenly you've lost a third of your net.
Yeah.
I try to say, nicely, don't want politics or religion or stuff like controversial stuff. That's not the place for it. It's not the place for it.
No.
We're all hams, and let's celebrate ham radio on the net. Do some public service if we can. Most people don't handle traffic, and that's fine. That's fine. It's just a good meeting place. We used to call it a traffic net and a general meeting place for amateurs in the state and New England, really. So it's such a long-standing tradition now that, as I say, 82 years. I hate to see it fall apart. So we try to keep it light, entertaining, I guess. And that's one good thing about so many. You get diverse net controls. I'm glad I've never written out a preamble say this is what I want you guys to read in the beginning of the net. I don't want to do that. I want the individuality of it.
Right.
You have NIT, you know what he's going to say every Monday.
Yeah.
all those prepositions. I thought he started for me a few years ago too. But anyway, he likes to do, well, that's great. That's Bill. And you get your own thing. Everybody does. I think it's great to have the variety. I hope that's true. It seems to work. There was a net in New Hampshire, the Gannett State Phone Net, which you may remember. I don't know. It's been off for years now. The old Ed was the manager of that net. And boy, he ruled with an iron fist. You had to come in, you had to say, this is, let go of your mic, then give you a call. And you had to do it exactly right. Well, a lot of people get upset with that because we're too strict.
Yeah.
So, now we're not perfect at it, but it seems to be working okay. You know, we got a lot of activity there. So try to keep it light and entertaining.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to mention about the Seagull Net?
And you mentioned the future of the net too. It's not much I can say because we have no crystal ball. But when I'm unable to do it, or people finally get sick of me, Um, I'd love to see it continue similar to what it is now.
Yeah.
Someone could improve it. That's possible. I don't know what you'd do differently without making major changes. That's trouble. There may be some things, could be. But I do think about who would be a good person to pick it up, wouldn't be controversial or whatever else, you know.
Yeah.
There won't be anybody that knows a lot of the older guys that were there that are long gone now, like I do, because I was so young at the time. You know, I remember so many of those guys going way back into the 50s.
Yeah.
So try to keep it going as close to original as possible.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm sure someone will come along and, you know, when you're ready.
When they put me out to pasture or I'm in the nursing home drooling or whatever. Yeah, and the origin of the name, you've heard me maybe say that on that, here from that tape of Wynn, the founder. There was a bunch of guys that were, of course, all AM back in the late 30s. They would have been on through all the 30s, actually. And then all the traffic on Pine Tree Net, of course, for those first 2 years, 37 up. And they were talking about what Wynn was saying, I think. I don't know if he started it. I have to listen to the tape again. I got to get it digitally done too, by the way, so that doesn't self-destruct. They said, well, we should have a phone traffic net. Well, nobody ever heard of one before, as I remember him telling me the story. So he said, well, what are we going to call it? Well, Wynn, remember I said he lived down on the coast. Then it might have been Portland area. I don't know where exactly. And they called him the old Seagull because he was down on the docks. He had his fishing operation there, canning sardines and all, I guess. Said it's going to be the Seagull Net. So that's how it started, because that was the name they called Wynn.
And that was from the very beginning. They didn't have
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they started it in 39, it became the Seagull Net.
Yeah.
The nickname for him. And again, he was extremely well known, section manager and all that stuff.
Yep. All right. Anything else about the Seagull Net? Or traffic or anything? Or?
Say what?
Or traffic, the national traffic system or anything like that?
Well, nothing I haven't mentioned, I guess, without boring people going into it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your equipment. I mean, you're known for collecting all kinds of boat anchors and everything. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Sad disease.
Yeah.
Well, I can move this is just a laptop, and I can move it around if you want to see anything.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know how else it's going to work.
Don't drop it now. Yeah, I can see all that equipment up. Oh, wow. There you go. There's the heavy ones.
That's all vintage gear.
Yeah.
The two on, on the edge of the picture, the big one sitting down there, that's my 160 meter AM stuff. I leave it on 160, and this 2 and 6 meter AM on the second shelf. And this big beast over here is see that big beast right there?
Yeah.
300 watts of AM from 1949, 1950.
Wow.
Okay. That's my, see now.
Yeah, you probably don't need a furnace in that, even in the winter, do you?
Nope, that's my Yaesu there. That's the ACOM amplifier there, so forth.
We got an ACOM. Okay.
Yeah. And over the other wall, let's see.
Excuse me.
It's hard to do it this way.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my 2 meter kilowatt for 2 meter sideband. SB 220 converted to 6 meters. And that's a station I use a lot. A Collins receiver, Johnson transmitter. That's what I ran the AM session on last time.
Yeah.
I'll try to unplug this. My battery's not that good. I hope it's going to stay with me. This is the one I'll be using next week. That Collins station right there.
Yeah. Yeah. The D104 mic.
And that's the Collins S line.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
1958, 1960, 61 vintage.
Yeah.
Transmitter, receiver, amplifier. That's a big Collins amplifier there on the floor.
Yeah.
And novice equipment, novice stations up top here on this shelf.
Holy moly, you got a regular museum here.
That's what they call it. A terrible disease. And the workbench over here.
Your test equipment.
Yeah. And there's some more equipment there, big receiver, military receiver. And some Heathkit gear there.
Why do you got little plastic baggies over all the microphones, just to keep the dust?
Yeah, no big, really not necessary, but I got so many of them I do. But some of them don't get used very much.
Yeah.
Well, that's the most of it. There's more, but that's the most of it.
All right. Yeah. Now, do you have a favorite or two among all of that?
Well, as far as the vintage gear, the big tall one I showed you. And there's one here on the floor that I don't have operational at the moment. I don't know if you can see it. Wouldn't mean much if you did, probably. That one at the very bottom, that's just the RF deck. The power supply weighs 175 pounds.
Wow.
That's one I dreamed about having as a kid. That's 350 watts of AM and CW. And there's some underneath the shelf.
Yeah.
Down on the floor, all over the place. So
Yeah.
it's bad.
All right. Well, thank you very much for giving me the interview on the Seagull Net and the tour of your shack there. So, do you have any parting shots for W1KX or anyone?
KX. This is a family interview, I assume.
Yeah.
Can't say what I think about KX, but anyway.
Now, how long has this been going on with you two going back and forth, teasing each other?
Well, as long as he's been on the air, probably.
Yeah.
He and his first wife, Judy, used to see him up to Abbott at the Hamfest up there. And we used to give him one another a hard time even there. That's back in the 70s. So it's been going on quite a while. Someone approached me at a Hamfest several years ago in all seriousness and said, took me aside, do you and Bill Mann really hate one another? I said, no, of course we do. So we've been good friends for many, many decades, really. Yeah.
And, that's what I like about the Seagull Net. I mean, I've met most of the people that are on there now, and at Hamfest and all that, and you become friends, and it's a great social thing. I really enjoy it.
If you're regularly on the net, you attend the Hamfest, you know a lot of people.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden, you know a lot. If you're not there, you have your little small group, from your club or whatever else on 2 meters, but on the net, you know a lot of people all over the state.
Well, and that's what I've had people here in Washington County tell me, some hams that says, how come you seem to know all these hams all over the state? Well, I get on the air.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you're missing
on
out.
the air and the statewide nets and stuff, and So, go to the Hamfest, and
Yeah, well, I hope to, as you know, I'm working on the Herman Hamfest this year to see if we can do it. I'm leaning to the fact that, yes, we're going to do it somehow.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to hear back from the high school. I've talked to them, and we'll see. We have another option for sure we can use if we want to. It's a little out of the way, slightly out of the way compared to Herman, but it's right in the same town.
Yeah.
And another one maybe in Bangor, we're not sure, but we're going to do something. I think it should be easily outside distancing, and shouldn't be a big deal now. I don't think. We'll see.
Yeah, it's like our club is pretty adamant we're going to be able to do a field day this year.
Mm-hmm.
In person.
Yeah, we haven't discussed it yet. We will be right off.
Maybe take a few cautions, but
Sure.
Yeah. So,
keep those phone operators away from us CW operators. That's don't come around.
Yeah. All right, Jerry. Well, I thank you for the interview, and
I'll think of other things later. I'm sure that I should have said, but I think I said enough.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, and I'll get with you about that. I'll put a template together for a web page. So, if you get the chance and get things, some documents together, I can put them on the web page.
Mm-hmm. Do you have have you seen one of the Seagull Net certificates? Do you have one?
I don't think so. I've got something from W1JTH, a QSL card from Y2K, I think. That's it.
Okay. Well, I should get you one. You should have one anyway. Net control. It has a hand-drawn seagull on the top. It's very nicely done. from back years ago. So that would be maybe something we could put up the top.
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
page
I'll
or
look
something.
around and see if I can find one. I might have one, but I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Not sure.
I usually hand them out at Hamfests and sign
Yeah.
them for folks who want them.
Yeah.
So I'll check on that too.
Okay.
Yeah. If you get something together, let me take a look at it. Appreciate
Yep.
it. Sure.
Yeah. All righty. Sounds good. All right. We'll catch you later.
Thank you. 7-3.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bill, you want to call K1NIT with you, Elliot? Sure. Copy, Bill? Sure do. Okay, number 2, routine, WA3GYW. That's Whiskey Alpha 3 Golf, Yankee Whiskey, Arrow 6. New Freedom, New Hampshire. Correction, New Freedom, Pennsylvania. September 4. Mr. Mrs. Fred Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N. Because 409 River Road. Elliott, Maine. 03903. Telephone 603 868 7417. Break ARL 50. ARL 60. Labor Day. Break Fran. That's F-R-A-N. Get a message. He sends those each holiday. You may have handled one of these before. She, Mrs. Martin is always happy to get them. Go ahead.
Okay, very good. QSL number 2, routine, K1NIT.
Thanks very much, Bill. W1KX.